Chuffy 1 2. Check 1. Chuffy in 2. So have that up on the old little mini picture there. I can hear that. You can't hear the background music. What? There you go. There you go. There you go. check Chuffy 1 2. Okay. I should have saved the coughing for before we started, shouldn't I? Pop out. Pop the old chat. Chat got popped. You got popped. Popped and shaped. And displayed on the screen. Oh, it's only a little thin thing, look. Only a little slight thing there. That bar. That's chat. It's chat. Move it where it can't be seen, look. Bang, it's disappeared. It's there again. It's disappeared. It's there. Oh, it's disappeared. Right, so hi. You're with Scott. This is Mental Health Monday. If you think like, what the hell? Hang on, he's chuffing about already. The Samaritans. 116123 for free. Get that chat moved out of the way. It was hiding before. 116123 for free. You know, if you're really distressed and you've come to Mental Health Monday because you saw it said Mental Health Monday and you think, what am I doing here? This guy's just chuffing. No one can help. Like, call the Samaritans. In America, call Lifeline. 1-800-273-8255. They're the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and Samaritans there in the UK. I'll go back to chuffing. This is what we're doing today, is we're doing an excess of empathy can be bad for your mental health. And it's looking at how empathy affects us. Specifically with the thoughts of going to Ukraine. The little picture there is just out of Shutterstock for their little article. It's a good article on The Conversation, news media, but it's academic rigour with journalistic flair. It's written by, it actually says who it's written by, look, above my head there. Trudy Meehan and Jolanta Burke. Lecturer of Positive Psychology and Health. Lecturer for Positive Psychology and Health at the RCSI University of Medicine and Life Health Sciences. I mean, it seems the RCSI University of Medicine and Health Sciences, Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. So that seems, legit, doesn't it? That seems legit. They've written this thing, so it's good. Look, yeah, it's been a year. It's been a year. Wow. Doesn't the time fly when you're trapped in the internet forever? Big face for that, look. Big face for that. It's been a year. It's been more than a year, really, hasn't it? More than a year. Just this streaming thing for a year, but I've been around for a few. You might notice my lips look a bit funny because I've done the old green screen. Done the old green screen with the old chroma key. No, that's normal, but now you can't see the background. Capital K, yeah, Capital K dropped that 50 sub bomb. You know what I was just saying? I was just saying to my mum that because Cheltenham Races is coming round. Cheltenham Races is like a football event. It's a horsey racing event, and it's not vegan, but I remember just before COVID kicked off in our country, the Cheltenham race, I was going to the pool night with my mate, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go to this pool night because I think we should be on lockdown. Like, we weren't on lockdown, like the news and the COVID and the cases just starting, and I was like, I think we should not be going out, I think we should be on lockdown, even though they're not locking us down. The word, I probably didn't say the word lockdown, I probably said I think we should be staying at home, but it was the pool night and my mate wanted to go, and I was like, we probably won't get to do this for a bit if this kicks off, so I want to go to the pool night one last time, and I took Marlo and we went to pool night, and there were two people there that had been to Cheltenham Races, and they were quite poorly. Now, you get quite poorly if you go to Cheltenham Races because you drink an awful. Oh, I've got a story about that. Am I feeling well? I'm feeling like Mental Health Monday, like a bit dizzy, not like literally dizzy, a bit mentally dizzy, a bit lost, a bit confused, a bit dazed maybe. The war in Ukraine, the big events. Thought after the COVID calmed down, we might get to some positive force going through. And it's a bit. I made a video about where I said the war in Ukraine was probably not even probably a fake war. They were just going to move the soldiers around and sell some guns, and that looks bad now, doesn't it? 2 weeks later, I couldn't imagine. My sister said, but he's moving the soldiers in. I was like, yeah, do you know what? He might actually move the soldiers in and do some posturing and stuff, but he's got no appetite for killing civilians, has he, Putin? He just wants to play soldiers, and then now they're killing civilians. So we're going to get onto that. That's today's episode. That's what we're web browsing about, is how we can deal with this empathy in terms of our mental health and with the Ukrainian war spin. But also I'll tell a couple of stories before we start. I mean, it's hard to. Which bit should I do first? I'll just quickly do the brief for Ukraine, like I was just saying. Yeah, it's hard to have imagined that these things would have taken place even just 2 weeks ago, and that's where I just started. Is that 2 years ago, it would have been impossible to imagine the 2 years we've just been through. I was going to pool night, with my mate and my dog, thinking like, well, we might not get to do this for a bit if we have a lockdown. Who knows what the future holds? But I was worried about it back then, and now 2 years down the line, Cheltenham Races is coming round, and that just marks this. It just says it in my mind. Oh look, Cheltenham Races is back on. It's been 2 years since we. Has it been 2 years since we locked down? And this thing with the Ukraine seems to have happened just in 2 weeks, doesn't it? Makes me think of all the Syria stuff as well. We're going to come on to that. Before that, I'm going to tell you a story about how drunk I was. Just keep us all, buoyant and bubbling along with this. I don't drink anymore, but back in the old days, I worked on my dad's roofing company. Worked on the roofs for my dad's company, and Cheltenham Races, the horsey racing, the races. Cheltenham Races was a thing that we did. So we'd get a bus from the Queen's Head, the pub, and we'd all get on the bus, and then we'd go to the Cheltenham Races, and then we'd spend some money on the races, betting and drinking and and then we'd all get on the bus and go home. That's the strategy. But of course, you turn up at the pub for a full English breakfast at like 10 in the morning. No, it's not 10 in the morning, it's earlier than that. It's 9. Whatever. You start off the day by drinking heavily. Before you get to the bus, you're on this, you're having your breakfast and you're drinking, you're at the pub, and then you get on the bus and you've got like cans of beer or what have you. Then you get to the races, and then you're spending your money and you're betting and you're there and you're and you're drinking. And I got to the point, right? Because you can't. I'm not. Back then it was, vegan. I wouldn't dream of going and spending any money at the horses now, but. This is just what we did. So the Cheltenham Races still goes on. It's just I don't go to it. But I got so drunk, right? I was so unbelievably drunk. And I had to have my little magic cigarette as well. I had to have my little magic cigarette, my little Zoot. So what I did was, where the horses go around in a like, they have this like paddocky thing. The horses walk around in a circle before they go on the race. And like, you see the horse. Do you know what, actually, that was always my strategy for betting. It was never, I'd go and look at the horses and see which horse looks most up for it. Which horse I'd think, I wouldn't like to ride that one. I'll put the money on that one. Anyway, the horses go around and the people look at the horses, and then the race happens and everyone goes away from this little paddock over to where the race is, don't they? Because that's where everyone shouting. Then the race is over and they're all in the betting area and in the bar. And until the next race, this little paddock's quite quiet. No one cares where the horses are going to be going round in a circle until the horses are going round in a circle. And that only happens every now and then. So I got myself round in the corner of that. There's people with their horses, you're not allowed in. It's very tight security. It's very, you're in this environment where you've gone to the race course, you go in through the gates. They've got the buildings and the bar and the racetrack and the big bit that you sit in, and it's all monitored, and you through the gates, you're in the facility. There's not many places you can go and have a quiet little 5 minutes by yourself. So I'd found my way into the quietest bit of this thing, and there's people going past with their horses occasionally, like somebody going past with a bucket, you know, horsey people doing horsey things. And then there was me, like absolutely obliterated drunk in a suit, because you go in a suit, you go in a nice suit, obliterated. I don't drink anymore, thank God, but because I've been there all day and there's no let up, and I can't say, oh, I've had enough now, it's time to go home. It was just like round after, and you're with the roof men, and you know, everyone buys a round and you buy the next round, and it's their turn, then it's your turn, and like absolutely obliterated drunk, like lying there having my magic cigarette. When I say lying there, lying on some sort of like turfed, grassy, you know, mound that I'd found, just like rolling around. Obliterated drunk. I think I might have slept a little bit until it was time to bring the horses round, and then that woke me up, so I had to get up and be like, oh no, I'm fine, don't worry about me. I'm just going to go back and carry on drinking like everyone else. Oh, I was so drunk. Can't even remember the bus ride home, but one of our friends, roofmen, I hope my sister's feeling better. She's got the COVID, so careful in chat. She's got COVID. You don't want to accidentally catch it in chat. One of the roofing men, he got so drunk that he said to my dad, who was the boss, that he was thinking of starting his own business, and do you think it would be all right if he went around in a van and started his own business? And my dad said, well, that's not a very good thing for, you know, the roofing business, because you know, that would be like competition. And then my friend said, oh, that, you know, I wasn't there at this point. I was so, like, he was so drunk. My friend said, oh, I've made a bad move there. What a mistake to make her. I'll tell you what I might do. I might just walk home. And so what he did was he walked home, and he was picked up on the motorway by the police, because like you can't walk home on the motorway when you're obliterated drunk. So there's some stories about Cheltenham races. I was just saying though, the point was that it's been 2 years since the old COVID kicked off. Just as, you know, the time's flashed by. We're going now, switching back on the let's have the Gravekeeper filter back on the chroma key, and it's been, that looks awful now, doesn't it? It doesn't look as good as it did before. Why is that? That's better. An excess of empathy can be bad for your mental health. So it turns out, and this goes for Ukraine as well. Last week, I was surprised to see how Ukraine is. I'm not going to go over all the Ukrainian news and, you know, everything that happened in COVID. We know there are bad things happening, and it's taken a turn for the. I can't believe it's going like that, and I'm surprised. I'll just briefly say I'm surprised that my you know, political sock puppet leader Boris Johnson, my particular brand of political leader. Our answer seems to be to sell some guns. It's like if you know this kid's going up against a big bully, and you're like, "Do you want to buy a stick off me?" What's that going to do? It's going to do you no good whatsoever. But you know, buy my stick. You'll need it to fight the bully. And then they buy the stick, and then you're happy because you've sold a few sticks, and then you know, push them up in front of the bully and watch it go down. It just seems wrong. Like we're not. I don't know. I'm not going to get political, but so it seems well wrong. It seems like the bad things are happening. And I said that Putin had no appetite for killing civilians, and now he's bombed a hospital. I'm not going to pick out particular things that make me particularly unhappy about about Ukraine specifically, or the world in general. That's the premise for the start today, though. For Mental Health Monday, for the start today is we feel bad because out there in the world there's a load of shit going on. So, he didn't say chuff, did he? Didn't say chuff that time. And the climate update, yeah, like there's all sorts, you know, pick your favourite thing that is bad about the world that we can't do really much about as individuals just by watching the news. And that's our start point. So welcome to Mental Health Monday. I'm sure it's all going to go well. And yeah, you can't predict what Putin. No, I don't. I can't pick up on issues of this, but Putin I might not be able to predict, but it seems like I can't predict what our Western leaders will do either, does it? You know, like the only thing I can predict is that they will do what's best for them, I suppose. But I don't know. I mean, I seem unable to predict their behaviour as well, because I thought they might have behaved a little differently in this situation. Like we had a thing in our country, right? For the first time, and I'm trying to move this so the black line's equal on top and bottom, and it's snapping to either the top or the bottom. I don't want it to snap to the top or the bottom. I want it to sit in the midpoint. See, even that's got me now today. I'm just gonna have to go down here and then make it a bit bigger like that, and then bring it back down, and then there you go. Perfect in the midpoint now. Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad that I got distracted then. See how that works? You get distracted and you forget what you're thinking. It's not so bad. Well, anyway, look, we're going to look through it now. We're going to have a little think, because this is from The Conversation. It's a good website. They've done good science. We're looking at it. It's Mental Health Monday. Have you ever found yourself irritable, sad, or close to tears when watching the news lately? If so, you're not alone. That's a good first point. Because we're normal, isn't it? Similarly in Iraq, yeah, I said, Syria, Iraq, like we're normal. We see these things. We grew up with these, things going on, thinking that can't be right. But we're not alone. That's important to know. It's a natural. In fact, it's probably the correct response, isn't it? It's probably the correct response. Experiencing empathy has its benefits, but there are also many downsides to it, which is why we must learn to practice healthy empathy. Fair enough. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe I'm empathizing wrong. Where's my big face? I'm empathizing wrong. Oh, I'm empathizing wrong. Don't worry about the Ukraine newsletter. That's just going to worry you. I'm empathizing wrong. I knew there was something. Empathy is an ability to sync emotionally and cognitively with another person. It's a capacity to perceive a world from their perspective or share their emotional experiences. You see, it's got a little thing here. This is what The Conversation does. It's a little different to some web content, news content. So it's got a little thing there. I can click that. It's going to take me to, what's this? It's an actual book. It's more than a book, isn't it? It's a publication in this online library of clinical psychology or something. It's like literature that's used for study, academic study. What would you call that? The university, those sort of things. So there's like a link there to the academic study that backs it up. It might be an opinion piece in a way, mightn't it? It might be somebody's dissertation, I don't know. It's essential for us maintaining relationships. It helps us connect with others at a deeper level. It's also associated with higher self-esteem and life purpose. So we could also say, if you don't empathise, you've probably got problems here, haven't you? Like there's, what's this? PubMed.gov. Does empathy have a cost? Diverging psychological and physiological effects within families. So there's actual science behind it. Look. Similar articles. I think it's good, isn't it? It's good that it this is written with that in mind, isn't it? With that sort of, science in mind. Yeah, actually, I'm not getting forced to my home and allowed to, yeah. But it's hard to watch these things, isn't it? It's hard to watch these things because we have this empathy. And sorry, just 1 minute. Sorry. Just some messings about in the hallway. There are broadly two types of empathy: cognitive empathy and emotional empathy. Emotional empathy is about sharing feelings with others to the extent you may experience pain when watching someone in pain, or experience distress when watching someone in distress. I think that's what's going on here, isn't it? Do you like? Do you like my grave? Wait. I'm supposed to be doing this episode properly. I'm supposed to be reading it properly. Now we're talking about my grave kipper coat. Here we go, my grave kipper coat. Oh yeah. I've had that a while really. I got it from a charity shop. It just works perfectly with the grave. I haven't put grave kipper on the screen because it's Mental Health Monday. I think it's just don't put it on the screen. But we'll go back to what we're doing. Don't get excited. Don't you start getting excited. I developed Lounge Goth. We're going to come on to that at the very end of today's broadcast. I can potentially maybe show you some Lounge Goth. So, emotional empathy is about sharing feelings with others. Someone in distress. That's what's going on, isn't it? When we're watching this news about the Ukraine and we're like, oh, this is terrible and it's bad. Because there's people that are suffering and we don't like it, isn't it? This is synchronicity with distress in effective empathy and compassion. Sensitivity to suffering of others is a core factor in social cohesion and evolutionary success. So it's kind of like natural, isn't it? It's natural, it's human to feel that. That's good. Proved with science there. This is what happens to many people when they watch upsetting news on TV, especially when they relate to specific people and their lives. Emotional empathy isn't just about experiencing negative emotions. Empathetic people may experience an abundance of positivity when watching other people's joy, happiness, or excitement. Isn't it? That's worth noting and picking out. Lounge Goth, there's no promises. I haven't finished. I'm halfway through making the Lounge Goth. I need to add a beat to it, and it's not in sync with the beat, so I'm going to have to re-record some stuff with a beat. But I'll show you the process maybe in a bit. I can't keep... No, what's happening now is I keep interrupting what I'm saying with something completely different, and I'm supposed to be helping us think about empathy. So everyone else is naughty apart from me, really. The point here I was trying to highlight was that you may have empathy for good things. Music, another day. There's science behind it. So it's worth knowing that you might think, oh, look, I feel bad because... Trait empathy shapes neural responses towards sad music. Wow, interesting. If you can understand what a VM, PCF, OCF, dorsomedial, prefrontal cortex, primary visual cortex, bilateral causum, like if you can understand that, then it's worth a read, isn't it? But if you're like normal people like me, you might just accept that we get pleasure and serenity out of other people's happiness. And can you hear that? Can you hear that helicopter? That's not a normal helicopter, I guarantee it. It was too heavy, it was too big. I reckon that's a Chinook. I hope it was. I hope it's not some really bad, like, you know. So, you know, when you hear like a helicopter like that going like a really big, serious one, doesn't it make you think, oh, like, you know, maybe the super war has started and that's the aliens dropping out of the sky, and you know, I'm here busy just ignoring it when actually I should be out there checking it out. You know, that could be the aliens landing and I'm like, oh, it's just a helicopter going over. Look, the point is you can get a lot of joy out of empathy, can't you? So if you've got the empathy problem, if you're watching the news, your Ukraine thing, and you're thinking, oh, I can't do anything about this and it's making me sad, that's the start point, isn't it? That's our jumping off point today. A lot of people are going to be feeling like that. Like, Boris Johnson's not helping. There's nothing I can do. We're going to get to what you can do in a minute, but there's a big point to highlight. That's good that you've got that, because it proves that you're empathetic and that when things are good and there's joy to be taken, you can enjoy them. I remember, I don't know why this has popped into my head, but I'm just going to big face it. I remember when... what was his name? Mo Farah. Was he from Somalia or Ethiopia? He's British, isn't he? He's British. But wasn't he a refugee from one of those countries? I think he was a refugee from one of those countries. Was Mo Farah a refugee from one of those countries? This might be, you know, just off the top of my head. I'm just going to put that Mo Farah refugee into Ecosia and see what. Yeah, of course he is. Yeah, no, from refugee to European champion, Mo Farah's. His parents were refugees from Mogadishu, Somalia. There you go. So Mo Farah was a refugee from Somalia, from the old Mogadishu, Somalia. There's his picture all behind me now. Loads of him. That one's not him playing football. Oh, it is him playing football. What's he doing playing football? He shouldn't be playing football. He should be busy doing this. Look, Mo Farah, refugee, bad times. You know, looking at that Somalia conflict, Mogadishu and all that, back in the day, bad times. Run forward. See what I did there? Run forward. Some of the years, and it's turned out all right, hasn't it? It's not so bad. He's there with his happy face. That's his happy face, trust me. He's there with his happy face, and he's won the old race there. So, I remember, this is my little story, I remember we got a pub in Stratford-upon-Avon called the One Elm. It was one of my favourites, actually. It was one of my favourites, because there were nice people that worked there generally, nice people that worked there, generally, and they had a nice big old bar, it was a nice feel to the room. They served the drinks that I like to glug, 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 drink. I don't drink anymore. So, but they served the drinks that I like to glug, 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 drink. In the summer, they served it was Hofmeister. It was like a big old thing with you put fruit in it. It's a beer with fruit in it. Glug, 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 drink all them. And it was summertime. We had the Olympics in England, didn't we? We had the Olympics in Great Britain. And Mo Farah did the running, didn't he? He did the running. He was running. I remember him running. Yay! Fast running. It wasn't fast, was it? It was long running. Not fast like Usain Bolt, but long running. Like, took a long time, which meant on the big night, the big Olympic night, we could all go down the pub. We're all out in the back garden. This place is called the One Elm. It's got a tree in the back garden, and it's an enclosed courtyard with a big tree in it. It's quite cool. All the bunting was up, and everyone was like, "Yay, the races!" And we were eating in the other room, having some food. And then, because we started watching it, and then we got some food, because he was running for ages. Bear in mind, he was running for ages. And then at the end, when he's getting towards the end, everyone went in the garden. We're like, "Hey, go on, Mo Farah, hey!" Shouting and yelling like as if he could hear us. But we all took a lot of joy in Somali immigrant Mo Farah's victory under the banner of Great Britain. So, you know, all worked out reasonably for some people in ways. I don't know what my point is here, really. I mean, obviously I'm pro-immigration. I'm pro, all these people that go on about, Britain and... Is the pub still there? Yeah, the pub's still there. Definitely still there. I don't think the people that work there are the same anymore. There's pubs in our town that have transformed since I last went into town drinking. Absolutely transformed. But I'm not going to really bother. Not that bothered these days. But Stratford's, fairly consistent. But yeah, so I'm pro-immigration, aren't I? I'm pro-immigration. I'm like, there was all these people that were like, "Oh, these bad immigrants are causing these problems in my country, and I think we should have a Brexit because of these bad immigrants, and we should stop the immigrants and all that." And like, then we bombed all their countries, and then we were like, "Oh, they've got nowhere to go. I feel bad for them, but don't have them come in here. Those bad immigrants. I don't like foreign people." Well, I'm not like that. I'm positive about it, and I think that these stories like Mo Farah exemplify, the sort of the whole point, isn't it? And it's before that. It's more than that. You enjoy a nice Indian meal or a Chinese meal, and all these different people from all over the world have come to create a rich cultural, wonderful. That's good, isn't it? Well, now we've got a few more Ukrainians. I'm joking. I'm making bad jokes about the bad war. So that's bad. What am I supposed to be doing? This. Bad jokes about the bad war. Quick. We've got more Ukrainians because hopefully, and it's not worked out very well yet. But hopefully people who run away from wars, just talking about Ukraine for a minute again. One of the things that I did, one of the problems with the Ukraine thing, one of the big problems, big face. Do you want a picture of Ukraine? So now I'm going to do a bit about it. Do you want a picture of that? If I just put Ukraine, what will come up? Oh, something. Oh, no, I didn't expect to see that, did you? These days. Probably won't these days. It's probably blown up, isn't it? Anyway, look, the old Ukraine, they the people run away from the war. Yeah, like in one way, like you've got two choices, haven't you? You either run away. I said to my sister, if 2 weeks ago I would have stayed, I wouldn't have. I would have had sensible people would have had a bag packed and be ready to go, and you might have had a little holiday. But I wouldn't have even believed the war would start. But the minute it did, I'd have been off. You know, I'd have had my plan and my setup all ready to rock and roll, and I'd have left everything and gone. In the UK, we had a war that we look back on in the Second World War, where Hitler and his Nazis and then bad men and ladies, not to be sexist, although I think Hitler probably was. I can label him a sexist, can't I? I can label Hitler a sexist. I mean, it's not. People aren't going to complain, are they? Hitler wasn't sexist. They're not going to complain. And if they did, doesn't matter. Don't have to listen to them. So anyway, look, the bad Nazis were on the way, and we had this speech, right? That I'm just going to paraphrase, aren't I? I'm not going to get it up. Our Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, said, "We'll fight them. We'll fight them in the streets. We'll fight them in the hills and the field." Like, he used this emotive language to conjure up these images of England. Like, we'll fight them in the hills. We'll fight them in the fields. We'll fight them on the streets. We'll fight them in our homes and in our workplaces, or something like that. He went on about where we'll fight them, like conjuring up this emotive images of England and the idea that, you know, we will never surrender and we'll never back down, and, you know, all the people, the normal people, you know, the bankers and the normal people, not the bankers, the normal people, you know, we'll take up our arms and we'll oppose occupation. We'll fight them on the beaches was the famous line, because, you know, and then actually it's making me feel a little bit emotional now, because I always feel a bit like that, but, you know, we actually sent like people over in little boats, like little fishing boats and all sorts. Just get any boats you can. We're all off over there, because we're launching on Normandy and we need people to help you take injured people back on your little boats and stuff. Like, we all kicked off. Anyway, at that point we decided that we're not going to back down. We're just going to fight, and, you know, whatever happens. And at that point, America, hello America, watching on in America here, hello America, America was like, oh, if you want, we can help as well. We can help as well. And we were like, oh, thank chuffing God for that, because we were going to go over there on our own and it was going to end chuffing badly. And America was like, no, come on, we'll help as well. And, you know, like, maximum respect, because on that Normandy beaches, you know, a lot of Americans died. You know, a lot of Americans died, didn't they? On the beaches of Normandy, northern France, going over there in the little boats with us. So we fought them on the beaches, and on their beaches, thank God, not ours. But in Ukraine, it's different, isn't it? Because you've got this giant Russia, and they had this moment. So we had, what was incredible this week, or last week, as just happened, is we had the Russian president speak to our parliament through video link, like live in parliament. And that sort of stuff doesn't really go on, like, honestly. You don't just have, like, you know, people don't just have a little chance to video link into parliament. It just really doesn't go on. So it was like a massive thing for it to even happen. And what he did, the Ukrainian president, is he used the emotive language of Winston Churchill and said, we will fight them in the streets, and we will fight them in, you know, you didn't say beaches because you don't have any beaches, because the Crimea is I'm not making a joke. I'm not making a joke, but they don't have any beaches because the Crimea has already been occupied by Russia. But they used to have beaches until Russia took them off them. Anyway, he said they're going to fight them in the streets and stuff, invoking that language. And there's this like clumsy weighing up of these two ideas, that should we retreat? You know, of course, all the vulnerable people should be out, but then some of the vulnerable people can't even leave because, you know, you might be in the hospital, or you know, you might need your medicine, whatever. Lots of vulnerable people. I've seen them carrying them out on stretchers and trying to get them out of the cities. I've heard some extraordinary heroic acts of valor. And I'm not going to, like I said, in today's stream, I'm not going to pick on anything that's particularly distressing and state it out. But, you know, all this sort of stuff's been going on. So you think, should you just walk out and, like, leave? Like, but no, you shouldn't, should you? You should stay and fight. But then what you're staying and fighting is, like, the irresistible march of the Russian army. Like, they've got more money, more people. It's a no-win situation, isn't it? But then I think back to what we faced in World War II, and that was a theoretical no-win situation. And our Prime Minister, just like theirs at the time, stood up and said, look, I kind of know this is a no-win situation, but I'm going to give the most rousing and inspiring like wartime speech of defiance that I possibly can. So like no-win situation, but heroic like defiance in the face of it. So I kind of get that, but at the same time, it's not the same as World War II, is it? Because like it's just not. And like we have not, and America and the NATO and all of us, we've kind of drawn our lines sort of over here in the sand. But Ukraine, we're like, we're with you, we're absolutely with you, and you can use our, if you want to, you know, buy a tank off me, I'll charge you later, don't worry, you go for it, use those tanks. But we're not going to, no-fly zone, meaning they can't bomb, the no-fly zone means that Russia flies a plane in to bomb Ukraine, and NATO, unless we go over there and say, no you don't, and we blow up that plane and chuff it off. No-fly zone means no one can fly over Ukraine because we're going to chuff them off. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Boris has said categorically, we're not fighting any Russians. So it's different now, isn't it? It's not the same as World War II. It's a really weird situation, but I don't know if it is heroic, and I know it's heroic and I know it's valiant to stay and fight as a Ukrainian. You know, if I was a Ukrainian, I would have, like I said, I would have had my bag packed. I'd have been all ready to leave. I'd have made sure that my mom and, you know, all these people were safely away. But then after that, I mean, I've even thought about going to Ukraine myself, just on holidays. Not on holidays, but getting my camera, getting my bag and just going over there now and just, you know, doing some filming and humanitarian whatever I can. I'd probably make it worse, wouldn't I? I'd probably make it worse. I'd probably be another mouth to feed that didn't know what was going on really. Probably get shot or something. But there's been an American journalist who worked for the New York Post in his time, and he's out there making a film about refugees, but he's not anymore because he's dead because he got killed. They shot him. And this is the surprising thing, that Russia are doing all these, you know, civilian attacks. Anyway, I don't speak Russian. No, I'd have to just get a fixer. I'd have to get 2 fixers. I'd say to somebody, look, what I would do is, I've already reasoned it out in my mind. I needed one friend to sort of go with me, but I could do it. I don't really feel like doing it on my own. But you'd go to France, you get yourself, or, you know, Germany or something like that. You get yourself a nice chonker of a car. You'd need a nice chonker of a car. Get that, and don't buy it. We're renting this. Bear in mind, we're renting this car, getting the insurance and renting it. And nice chunk of a car. We need all the gear. I need the proper, you know, bulletproof vest and boots. You know, that sort of gear. Press, do not kill. Press. It doesn't bother the Russians. Press. Anyway, look, I'd need that sort of gear, and then I'd change a lot of money into euros or dollars, probably both. Probably a few £1,000s in both. And then we'd be out. That would be it. Like, you know, pick up a fixer, somebody who knows what they're doing, and hopefully try and pick up one of these mercenary people there's people that are going from Britain to Russia to fight for the Ukraine. So hopefully somebody wants a lift, you know, and they've got a few guns and they know what the chuff is going on. And between us, we can just get across the border from Poland. We can drive across, and then we're in the Ukraine, and we've got a big chuffer of a car, some people with guns, and our cameras. Right, we've got security cameras and we've got the wheels, and we just try and sort of, you know, do some filming of the war. When I get there, my plan sort of falls apart. I don't really know what I'm doing when I get there. Hopefully I've got enough super noodles and ramen in my bag to keep us going for 2 weeks. No, you'd be there for 3 or 4 days. You wouldn't want it. I don't want to be like a 6-week project. I'd be there for 3 or 4, maybe 5, 6 days, and I would chase the front line essentially, wanting to stay just behind, but, you know, venturing up to and near and around and about. And at some point I'd like, you know, once we've done the front line a little bit, at some point I'd like to do some sort of retreat crossing, because I'm sure that the Ukrainian people and their leaders are not all at the front line. So some sort of retreat crisscrossing around as we leave to try and get as much testimony as possible. Yeah, like, you know, you want to go out there and take care of people. I think I don't have many skills, but what I can do is I can show the world through the lens, the reality of the situation, tell some stories, reach some people with some ideas. Okay, that we're not doing it, are we? We're not doing it. I'm not doing it because none of my friends want to go, and I thought about it and then someone died, so it's a bad idea. But this is my point, isn't it? This is my point. The other thing that Ukrainians are having to think, right, is should I go and fight? Now, even British people are considering going and fighting. I don't know if it's a good idea to fight Russia and to shoot guns at like this giant Russian army. I don't know. And if I was in their situation, I'd probably be more likely involved in ferrying people out than I would be running to the front line to fight. That's what my instinct is, because I don't think it's a fair fight, I suppose. And I think it's valiant to stand up to bullies, but in this sort of context, I don't know what would happen if they all just left either. If Russia just took it over and they all left, would they ever get it back? Maybe they do need to stay and fight. I don't know. You know, I don't know what the end game is, but from what I've seen thus far, it's a lot more. Vladimir Putin's prepared to do a lot more worse things than I expected. So, yeah, so that's my take on that. It's a nightmare, isn't it? It's an absolute nightmare. But there are some people who've gone. Like Alexander Usyk is a boxer, and he's the world heavyweight champion of sorts, and he's from Ukraine. So he's gone back to the Ukraine. Right, there he is with all his boxing belts. That's Alexander Usyk. He's a boxer. Got all the belts there. Hey, all the boxing belts. And if you take a look at him now, he's out there with his... he's got... See, this is the thing. He's a millionaire. Yeah, he's a millionaire. So he can afford to kit himself out. So I don't know if he's out there like as part of the military, or if he's just gone out there with his mates and their guns. But like, he's back there now with his mates and their guns. So people who are already out have decided to go back in. It's a strange situation, isn't it? It's a strange situation. So with all that in mind, what we got up to thus far is that having our feelings about it. Web of a browser, because that's what we're on about really, is having our feelings about it, isn't it? Like having these confused and difficult feelings about what's going to happen, and we don't know what's going to happen next and how it's going to play out, and we can't really, I can't ring up Vladimir Putin and be like, listen mate. So while having the emotional, so we saw that it was good though in ways. Knowing that we have it means that we can have it for the good as well as the bad. Like we can enjoy the joy, we can enjoy that Olympic run as much as we can feel sad for the refugees, yeah? While this emotional contagion is suitable for positive states, having too much empathy when watching people suffer can be very upsetting and can lead to mental health problems. Too much empathy towards others, especially when we prioritise other people's emotions over our own, may result in experiences of anxiety and depression, which explains why so many of us feel bad when watching the news about the war in Ukraine. See, they even put it there to contextualise why they're doing it. There's the link. What's the link? It's a study. The dark side of empathy. Meta-analysis evidence of the relationship between empathy and depression. Oh. Well, there you go. You can go and read it. You don't have to take it from me. I don't know why I'm so cross about that. That's not... Or maybe I'm just... don't know I'm cross about that. I like the fact that they use these little pointers towards the science. It's clever, isn't it? Cleverer than me. Anyway, the other type of empathy, cognitive empathy, refers to seeing the world through other people's eyes, seeing it from their perspective, putting ourselves into their shoes without necessarily experiencing the associated emotions, and, for example, watching the news and understanding at a cognitive level why people feel despair, distress, or anger. This process may lead to emotional empathy or even somatic empathy, where empathy has a physiological effect, somatic being from the ancient Greek soma, meaning body. Wow. That would be interesting to feel, wouldn't it? One of these days. Nah, probably not useful for me. I'll go on without caring. No, look, what it's saying is that you can actually feel so in tune with other people's distress, so upset by it, that it can make you feel physically sick. That you can feel bad because you feel bad. That's what it's saying. You feel bad because you feel that I did that. Well, just feel better then. I've rewritten that. Short. You feel bad because you feel bad. And here's my Scott's top tip: mental health support. Just feel better then. Obviously, that's what That's what some people sometimes. It's not that easy, is it? The effect of empathy on the body has been well documented. For example, parents experiencing high levels of empathy towards their children tend to have chronic low-grade inflammation leading to lower immunity. That's a science bit. Also, our heart beats to the same rhythm when we empathise with others. No. Get away. Greater linkage between friends' physiological responses and emotional experiences is associated with empathetic accuracy. Within person indices of physiological linkage and objective measure of empathy. What they've said here is they've done a study and they've measured people's heartbeats, I'm assuming, and it suggests that you sort of fall in sync. That's incredible. I'm not going to read it to prove it. They've told me it exists. I'm going to tell you, and it's up to you. It's up to you if you want to find out. This is Mental Health Monday, not somatic, empathetic, physiological response Monday. So it's not. It's incredible though, isn't it? It's incredible. What we're saying all the way through here, still, what we're saying all the way through, with relation to the war in Ukraine. Alexander Usyk's now going to be my Ukraine poster boy. Thanks. In relation to the war in Ukraine, is that it's natural and human to see these people and to think, God, you know, I can understand how they'd feel. That must be awful. And then to sit there and start feeling bad yourself and actually have a physical response that you feel bad, that's totally normal. It's totally natural. You're not like falling off the mental health spectrum. You know, it's not like this week you saw this on the news and everyone else just carries on and you're the freak. It's totally normal and totally natural. In fact, that's what I've got a little story about that, haven't I? Got a little story about that. I was going to pop in. When was I going to pop it in? I'll pop it in now. Why not pop it in now? Right? I'll pop in my little story and then we'll get on to the next chapter. Misnomer. Ooh, controversy. Should I have Alexander Usyk back in my story? No, because this is a serious story about this. The mother's temperature changes to meet the needs of the newborn when skin to skin. Oh. So if you've left the baby outside in the cold, if you've left the baby outside in the cold, your skin, oh, I'm feeling a bit cold myself. Oh, is that because the baby's outside? I don't know. Where is the baby? Have you left it outside in the cold again? Oh, chuffing hell. Well, it'll grow up nice and cold. War graves, Cyprus. It's a little story. It makes me sound like a nutter, but it's a little story. It makes me sound like a proper nutter. I don't know which war graves in Cyprus. I'm assuming there can't be that many because, you know, it's only a small island. So when I was in Cyprus once upon a time, I went on holiday to Cyprus and I went to this place, the war graves in Nicosia, probably. I don't know. We got on a bus and they took us to the war graves. And it was just one of these options. You had day out options. Could have gone to see the dolphins. I picked the war graves. So when we went there, I didn't realise, but it made me feel really sad and I had a little cry. We went in, there was like a building that you could walk through and then you went out through this big arch and then there was all these graves and I was like, oh, actually, you know, a little bit emotional. I had a little cry. No one else on the trip was having a cry. I put my sunglasses on because it was sunny. It was sunny, but you know, that wasn't why I was wearing them. I was having a cry. So no one else was having a cry. And I thought, God, am I, that's it. Look, that might be it. Imagine that. It was like an arch like that. It might not be that. That's in Cheshire, maybe. I don't know. But it was like that. You had an arch and you walked through and then there was all these graves presented in front of you. And it was lovely and sunny and it was a nice day and I was having a little cry. And then we got back on the bus and we went back and I was like, you know, nobody else, everyone else was like, I should have seen the dolphins. That was rubbish. But I was like, that was, you know, deeply moving and emotional. I'm here on my holidays having a nice time. And the reason I'm having a nice time is because going back to that thing, you know, we'll fight them on the beaches. Going back to that is because some people aren't having such a nice time anymore. They're dead and they stood up and instead of having a nice time, they had to go through all this war and stuff. And like, I'm lucky that I don't have to, you know, I'm lucky that I'm not in there, but I'm grateful. And it's all these feelings, isn't it? And then you feel sad and you have a little cry. But nobody else is having a little cry. And I thought, what's going on? Like, why aren't you? I'm a weirdo. And I'm used to feeling like a weirdo. So I was like, turns out I'm a weirdo again. But, you know, there you go. That's my little story about that. It's my little story. If you're feeling really depressed and my story's made it worse, then that's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and that's the Samaritans. But going back to what we're doing today, that's normal though. It's normal. I'm not the weirdo. You're not the weirdo. When you see these things, when you watch these things on the news, over the last 2 years, it's been chuffing hell with the COVID, hasn't it? You know, when you watch the documentaries, yesterday even, I watched a documentary about chuffing Jeremy Kyle and somebody who committed suicide after being on the Jeremy Kyle show. And it was like, again, like, I don't know, it might just be me. I might just be an emotional wreck. Somebody said the other day after watching our latest, I was supposed to shill for myself at the start of the episode. I'll have to do that at the end now. Our latest ASMR upload. Someone said, you seem to be having a really, good time and in a good place. And I thought, well, that looks like that way on camera. But when I go walking the dog and I'm scared that I'm going to die of a heart attack, and I think to myself, God, what's happened to you over the last 2 years, you chuffer? Like 2 years ago, I'd been through a real hard, difficult time trying to finish that film, and I said to myself, look, enough of this, it's time to push out into the world and stir up some valor. And then the COVID hit, and I was like, maybe put that valor down and just stay at home and do the valor by looking after Nan. But what's happened over the years, I don't know. Turns out it's normal, doesn't it? Turns out it's normal, web of a browser, to feel these things. So what we're going to find out over the next bit, is if you're the person that cries at the war graves, if you're the person that watches the documentary and then, you feel sad and affected, if you've been affected by the concepts raised in today's program, this is the helpline. I'm not saying I'm always, I watch the programs, I don't feel, but just, you know what I mean? If you get this response, it's good, it's normal, it's human, it shows you're empathetic. It shows you're good at empathizing and you've got empathy, and that's a real positive because you can take real joy in things. So you want to watch out for the joys and take the joys where you can because you're good at that. Misnomer. Right, misnomer. I cried at the Churchill Museum. You've reminded me then. We went to the... I've got to be careful what I say because I'm on the internet and I don't want to get thrown off the internet for using the wrong terminology. But I went to the Jew Museum. I went to the Holocaust Museum of the Jews in the Holocaust. Right? The Holocaust Jew... Am I getting the words right? I hope I'm not trying to be... I'm not anti-Semitic, but I did go... And I'm pretty sure they called it the Holocaust Museum or the Jew Museum. I mean... They are Jews, that is the word for it. And yeah, I was like, I couldn't hack it. I had to go outside for a bit. Like, it was a school trip. I remember it was a school trip, and they had us in one of those. You sit in the I was going to say sit in the gas chamber. They didn't have us sitting in the gas chamber. That would have been a bit excessive for school children. But they had us in an air raid shelter. And they were talking about things, and I didn't like it. And then when they went on to show us the Jewish stuff, the Holocaust stuff, the Auschwitz work sets you free. I was just like, can I go outside for a minute? I need to have 5 minutes on this. Yeah, heavy, isn't it? It's chuffing heavy, but it's normal. It's normal, web browsing. It's normal, and we are normal to feel that, and we are predisposed to feel that so that we can take more joy in the world when we find the joy. Let's get on to the misnomer. The misnomer means it's been named wrong. What's been named wrong? The burnout experienced by excessive empathy has traditionally been termed compassion fatigue, but more recently, using mRNA studies, they put the brain in the scanner. Neuroscientists have argued this is a misnomer and that compassion does not cause fatigue. That's good. Compassion does not cause fatigue. Thank God for that. Because I was worried there for a little bit that all these feelings and, all these feelings, the effect on the body. Did I just read that one out or did I miss that one? No, we said that, didn't we? You can actually have a physiological effect on your body. Actually have a physical effect on your body. Some people call that compassion fatigue. But it turns out that compassion does not cause fatigue. The distinction is important because it turns out compassion is the antidote to the distress that we feel. Got to read this correctly. Compassion is the antidote to the distress we feel when we empathise with people who are suffering. We need less empathy and more compassion. What? Less empathy. Fatigue can cause a lack of compassion. That's really true. That's a really good point. There's a psychological study contesting the term compassion fatigue, integral findings from social neuroscience and self-care research. That was done in 2020, before the COVID. So what we're saying now is that empathy and compassion are distinct events in the brain. Empathy for another person's pain activates areas in the brain associated with negative emotions. I get that. You see people feeling bad, you empathise, it sets off your bad brain centre. Presenting the MRI science, the neurological science here is Scotty Hottie. And just going to break it down into words that we can all understand. So the bad part of your brain, the bad pain area, that activates when you're thinking about the bad pain of other people. Because we feel the other person's pain, like literally feeling it now, aren't we? Our brain is reacting in a similar way as with the same parts are lighting up. The boundary between the self and others can become blurred if we do not have good boundaries of self or self-regulation skills. We experience emotional contagion. Empathy and Compassion. Current Biology, Volume 24, Issue 18, 2014. Empathy and Compassion. So there is a little paper. One of those papers. Maybe I should do the papers. Maybe I should dig into the papers more. But I like that it's there backing it up. And if you want to look at it, you really can. But it looks like a lot to look at, doesn't it? Quite detailed. Compassion. Positive feelings, love, good health. Approach and pro-social motivation, empathetic distress, self-related emotion, negative feelings, poor health, withdrawal. No, it's got like a contrast between the two. That's what we're looking for, isn't it? We're going to get to that now. We get entangled in the distress and find it hard to soothe our emotions. We want to depersonalize, become numb, and look away. That's true, isn't it? That's what I said earlier. I wanted to go out the room when I was in the... Where's my big face? When I was in the Museum of the Holocaust, didn't like it, wanted to go outside. Didn't like it, wanted to go outside. Felt sad. Felt so sad that I had to stop feeling sad from the sad thing that was making me sad. I had to go outside for a bit. You know? We get entangled in the distress. We find it hard to soothe our emotions. It's all happening at once when you're at the Holocaust Museum, isn't it? It's like you're a kid and you didn't know all that much. Then all of a sudden it's all there in, you know, vivid black and white image, moving pictures. I don't know, like, you know, it doesn't build up over time. You just like see things, learn them at once, don't you? And the war in Ukraine's another weird example. It's been years building and stuff, but all of a sudden it's like, you know, when that one thing blows up, it's a bit of a big shock still, isn't it? In contrast, compassion is associated with activity in areas of the brain associated with positive emotions and action. The neuroscience of compassion and empathy, they're linked. That's the same paper as before. That's cool. Compassion can be defined simply as empathy plus action to alleviate another person's pain. The action part of compassion helps us decouple our emotional system from others and see that we are separate individuals. So it's not about looking away. It's not about looking away. It's about taking an action that helps us to realise that, yeah, look, that's not actually me. Like, we do not have to feel their pain when we witness it. Which is like, what? Hang on. The compassion, the empathy is a good thing, yeah, but so is the compassion. The empathy is self-destructive in this context. In this context, the empathy is self-destructive. We don't have to feel their pain. Instead, we have the feelings of wanting to help. And we have a rewarding, positive emotional experience when we feel compassion towards another. That's quite big, that is actually. That's quite big, isn't it? Sorry, I've been doing it where you can't see it. Just move it up there where you can see it. We've got the feeling of wanting to help. And we have a rewarding, positive emotional experience when we feel compassion. So if we can turn our empathy, I feel bad about that. Hang on, I'm feeling bad about that. I'm watching it on the news and I'm feeling bad. I can notice, I know, feeling that empathy. Then I've got to turn that into a feeling of compassion. And in order to do that, I've got to take some action. And that helps us to decouple. I don't want to have to look away. You know, I'm still involved, but I'm able to sort of not take it all on myself and not be crushed myself through your crushing. Instead, what I'm going to learn to do is it's okay to feel the pain, to feel those instinctive responses, and then say, okay, we're going to go into some sort of action, and we're going to end up with a rewarding, positive emotional experience. What? I know it sounds mad, that, because I don't know because I've read this through before and checked it all through, and I don't know if it's easy, like how to make that change. I don't know if it's easy, but here's what they suggest. When you're overwhelmed by the news, practice loving kindness meditation. This is only their first suggestion. They got a few, so I'm gonna about some of these, but focus on sending love to yourself, people you know, and those you don't know who are suffering. So what they're saying here is, you're watching the news, you see the bad thing, and you take 2 minutes to actually mindfulness meditation and to try and focus on positive, loving feelings, and to put those positive, loving feelings out into the world, which I suppose is really difficult, because as soon as you see the bad things, you're like, oh, that chuffing Putin, that angry, oh, that chuffer. But the compassion, that's the empathy, isn't it? You feel the pain, you got that angry response or whatever, like depression, rage turned inwards, inability to do anything, makes you feel more, what's the word? Is impotent? More unable to do anything in the world and to create an action. So, but instead we're saying, whoa, stop that. We're going to create a buffer of positive emotions, and we can think about how to practically help and act in overwhelming situations. Training your compassion provides a buffer against the negative emotion, so you can be better motivated to help and not get overwhelmed by the distressing emotions. That's a good point, isn't it? We want to do something to make this better. That's what I just said. I can't affect and change the world. Well, we're not going to be able to if you're all angry. So let's try and get into that position of love and a buffer of positive emotions, so that we can then create some positive waves to do something good. I get so overwhelmed by the news, I find it difficult to look away. It's probably a good practice to meditate. Yeah, well, remember doom scrolling? We did a doom scrolling episode, and that's going to come down at the bottom there, but, don't get ahead of yourself. I'm not big on this, though, right? I'm not big on this. And this has got a YouTube video, which is a meditation. And we do guided meditation on the ASMR channel, but this one is like 9 minutes long, and quite a lot of it is silent, because there's like big pauses where they're like, why don't you think about this for 5 minutes? And then you think about it for a bit. So that I'm playing it now and nothing's happening.
Depth of love that you have towards these individuals. Feel this love and positive emotion emerging from you, and feel it coming back from them as they look up at you.
So it's one of them. Now, some of us don't even like about that, aren't we? But you could give it a try. Even if you're not going to listen to the meditation, what you could do is you could just, like it says, practice loving kindness. I'm going to say reflection rather than meditation. Like the instinctive, and the news does it to you, doesn't it? The news is like, oh, why don't you feel bad about this? Have you thought about feeling angry about that? Like, practice taking these things on board and then giving yourself 5 minutes to say, how can I reflect positive vibes back out? I know I personally find that really difficult. And I find that the negativity is actually a big motivator for me. I'm like angry about it and I want to change it. But remember, we said, not being able, like, how am I going to change Putin and what's going on? And maybe I can't, and then maybe I have to distract myself from the things I can't change, accept them, distract myself, move on with something more positive. But just the ignoring it makes me feel like I'm ignoring something that I should be doing something about. This is saying the first step to doing something about it is to get positive and compassionate, and then we can do something positive and compassionate about it. It might be a really good point, and it might not be that loving kindness meditation seems or sounds up your street. It might sound, if I'm honest, a little bit what you put. I feel guilty if I enjoy something while so many are suffering. Yeah, that's true as well, isn't it? And we're not supposed to. We're supposed to feel, like, in a way, all these people that are leaving the Ukraine are quite welcome to come and join us in feeling good and happy over here if they want. I want to make that one of the things I was so I'll do big face on this. One of the things that I was so disappointed by in our government and other governments, but I can't write a letter to everyone else's MP, but God forbid I should write one to mine. We all know my woes with my local. It's just, my local MP doesn't really care about what I think. So That's just how it is. The important thing though, like we feel like one of the things I'm so disappointed in is that people who are trying to leave a war zone should be given safe passage, and that safe passage should be provided, mediated, whatever. Like we should have rows of our NATO forces, our forces, whatever you want to call it. We should have, rows of them in the street, ferrying people back to safety. Shouldn't be just like, let's hope they can crawl over the broken glass and get here. And if they can, our local little bit of, our Home Secretary Priti Patel has offered visas for Ukrainians, and it's available online. So, while you've got all your possessions in a shopping basket and you're struggling to cross a river on a shiftily made wooden, because the bridge has been bombed, and you've got all your possessions in a plastic bag, and if you can get online to directgov.uk, you'd be all right. But other than that, maybe that's why it's not so many people have applied, because it might be quite difficult for them to get internet access. I mean, Jesus. But and all the pets, I think we should have a lot more agencies involved. I'm not talking conflict here. I'm not talking selling guns and shooting guns. I'm talking getting people out, getting people to safety. We should have a lot more of that going on. And what I was then going to go on to say is that, because if people want to come from there to Europe or to UK now, separate from Europe, or whatever, if you want to come from that horrible war zone and join us in our cultural milieu, in our mix of different people all trying to do best and work good together and all that, if you want to come and join in, that's great, because we can use you in the Olympics to win medals, and because but I'm joking, but all the different voices make up the choir, don't they? And we have a much better society for all those different voices being part of it. So if somebody from around the world wants to come here and join in, then that's good as far as I'm concerned. Whether you're Syrian or Ukrainian, you're quite welcome here, in my opinion. And then we should have much more, going on to help that happen. But going back to what we're saying on the mental health front, is that if we as a society, if we're watching this news and we're hoping that people come to our society, hoping to offer them a place, if we as a society are bitter and angry and aggressive and, because we've been watching this news and it's making us angry and upset, if we're angry and upset, then that's not, these people are coming from war and you're angry and upset. That's not what they need, is it? They need more compassion. They're angry and upset. We need to offer them, compassion, don't we? So that does make sense, doesn't it? It does make sense that if you can train yourself to be more compassionate in the face of this distress, this good, empathetic, this good empathy, that causes distress, that's good. So practice that. That's a good one. And okay, it might seem a bit hippie, mightn't it? A bit hippy-dippy and a bit fey to be like, oh, loving kindness meditation, oh, peace and love, man. But it's not actually presented in that way, is it? It's presented from the Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland, which is, a national institution that's serious and not hippy-dippy. So, yeah, how to take that on board? It's hard to throw away those old ideas, isn't it, of like, practicing peace and love meditation, man. But it's not about that. It's not like that. That's not how it's presented. It's got little Lego men on it, if anything. I don't know what that means, but right, number 2, because I think number 1's difficult. I think it's good to try and say to yourself, but I think it's hard to become a love meditator if you yourself are not, if you're coming from a point of view of like, chuffing hippy dippies. Like lots of normal people would say, if you'd say to them, do you want to do a love meditation? If you went out in the street, we should do this. I should take the camera out. I should do more of this sort of stuff. But I should go up to people and say, do you want to do a love meditation? They'd think I was some sort of hippy dippy, wouldn't they? They would think I was like Russell Brand or someone like that. Do you want to do a love meditation? Going out in the street. Do you want to do a love meditation, mate? Oh, chuff off you weird chuffer. Chuff off you weird chuffer. Do you want to do a love meditation? So it would seem a bit weird, wouldn't it? So, but it's been presented there like it's not, and it's good for you. That's my thoughts on that. Practice self-compassion. Are you beating yourself up for not being able to help, or feeling guilty about your life while other people suffer? That's it. Try being kind to yourself. Try not beating yourself up, but instead a self-compassion, alternative conceptualization of a healthy attitude towards oneself. Let's copy. And now this is a big read. So whilst we could big read it right now, you could big read it whenever the chuff you want, frankly. But it's a proper big read. Look, University of Texas, Austin, Texas. So there you go. It's not just all the Europeans, is it? And look at all those. Look at all those. You know when they've got it in brackets, Bandura 1990, Decci and Ryan 1995. Look at all those other studies that you could go on and find. Wow. But there's a lot of it here about self-compassion. When I say a lot of it, look, it's like a chuffing book. It's like a little book. I'm not reading all that on screen, but interesting stuff. It's there for you. I've put it in the thing. Be kind to yourself. Remember that while our suffering is always specific to us, it's not uncommon. We share a common humanity of all experiencing some kind of suffering. While being mindful of your suffering, also try to not over-identify with it. That's also big, isn't it? Do you know I say that about mental health? I say that about anxiety, don't I? I say that it's so easy in this world of identity politics, growing up and finding your identity, having things, not just politics, identity psychology, I suppose, as well, having things display your identity, internalizing things about yourself, saying I have this problem, I've got anxiety, it's my anxiety, my panic attacks, my bad foot, my bad ankle. Do you know, at that time I went over on my ankle, my bad ankle, that's my bad ankle, that's my ankle, it went bad, I snapped the ligament, oh, my bad ankle. My anxiety is a bit different because you feel anxiety from time to time, maybe more often than not or whatever, but it's not that you are made up of a Lego brick that says anxiety and that's fixed in your brain and that's you now. You've got your anxiety brick, your anxiety chip, your anxiety. It's anxiety comes in waves. It's an emotion that comes in waves that we all feel and we all share, but you don't have to hold on to it and make it a flag and a button that you wear and a thing that you are, a thing that you are. It's a transient feeling, but we make different things part of our identity in different ways. We should do more episodes on identity specifically, but it's saying try not to over-identify with it. Be mindful of your suffering, try not to over-identify with it. It's okay to say I am an empathetic person, I'm a conscientious person, I'm feeling sad because of the things that I'm seeing, but saying I am depressed and I am suffer. I am like me. Part of me is to be depressed about the world, and the world's not going to change, and nor am I. Don't over-identify with it. We all feel sad, and we all feel these things, and these things can also pass. And remember earlier we said that being an empath, being an empathetic person, meant that we had the opportunity to enjoy the joys more as well, and to really get into things. I remember once, actually, this is a good one. My dad once said to me about the football. We were watching England play football, and he said, "Why'd you get so excited about it and so worked up about it, so to speak?" And I was shocked that he should ask me that, because we've been going to the football since I was a little kid, and he took me to the football when I was a little kid. And when I was a little kid, I should do a football episode as well. Here's some ideas for the episodes. I couldn't see over the wall. The first football game we went to away on, it was a New Year's Day, and we went away to Bristol Rovers. So we all got in the car. I was in the boot. It was one of those, back in the day when you're a kid and there's lots of people in the car, so you have to sit in the boot, in the trunk. It was one of those big estate cars, and I was in the boot. Went all the way down to this game, Bristol. I think was that the one I was in the boot? Was this different? Anyway, we went to Bristol, from Birmingham to Bristol. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours in the car, and then we got there, we went to the gate. Oh, there's like a football match going on. There's all people walking around. I was only little. I was so little. When we got in there was a wall, wall, and I couldn't see over it. And from my seat, I couldn't see the game because there was all these adults. So I went down to the front and I couldn't see over this wall. So I couldn't see the game. The football, I couldn't see it. I jumped, and I had a jump up, every now and then. And they were so big, these people, these football men. They were like big, chunky, like, because they were real. They weren't on telly now. They were big, like running around, real. Like, and I vividly remember the Bristol Rovers kit, the blue and white check, big blue and white, because that was who I could see. I could see Bristol Rovers defenders. Couldn't see any Birmingham players. I didn't see a Birmingham player that day. Don't even remember the score. Couldn't see over the wall. I couldn't. It wasn't about the football on the pitch. I realised in that arena that it wasn't one of the best arenas. We were like third division at the time. It was like a small, bit more of a scruffy. I went back there to Bristol Rovers ground when I was at university in Bristol and went and supported the Bristol Rovers in my Birmingham shirt a couple of times. That was really cool. But yeah, so it was this football ground. And it wasn't about the football that was taking place on the pitch. It was about the fact we all went down there as a family with our family friends, the Stockses, and everyone was singing songs. And then at half time, we all had pies, and then warm pie in your hand, and everyone being happy and angry and happy and way and whatever, and talking about it on the way home in the car, and like being part of a bigger thing, a group of people, being part of this like emotional experience, and then growing up. Getting, being involved with that over the years. Football wasn't about, it is about the thing that happens on the pitch. I can analyse a football match. I can tell you why if you're playing against, like this thing that does my head in with England, the 4-3-3 and the 4-2-3-1. Against, like if you're playing against a 4-3-3, then you can open up space for your opponent just by playing the wrong formation. And I understand these things. I understand when it's time to move the ball down the line and overlap with the winger and what have you. I understand I've played so much FIFA. It's not about the science and the chess match of a football game. It's about the emotion that you feel and the group. So we go to the pub beforehand and we all talk to each other, and then we go to the pub after and all talk to each other, and we feel these things together, and we sing these songs and we enjoy these highs. And for me, it was about empathising with the emotions, I suppose. It was about empathising with the emotions, and the fact that everyone was doing that in this huge arena. Like you score a goal and you hug the person next to you and you don't even know who they are. They're a Birmingham fan. You're a Birmingham fan. Of course you know who they are. Like, they do an announcement at half time. They used to always do these announcements. Again, it's making me feel emotional, and it's hard to explain these things to a non-football fan, to somebody who's not. It's somebody who's just watching the game. But they do these things at half time where they say, like, 87-year-old so and so died, and they're a Birmingham fan all their life, and they're in the program. They're in the match day program is like a little thing for them today. And they're not going to bury them on the pitch or anything. They just say a little thing, and I think to myself, God, that was just that's me when I die. That's my granddad when that's all of us. It's all of us. We've lost one of our own. This is why when God, I'm going to have to be really careful I don't break down myself now. No, I don't go to the football so much these days, these years that have gone on, these last few years, pre-COVID and now. But it's part of me that will never disappear, so I didn't go and actually take part in this. But this young lad, Arthur, was murdered by his parents. Like, again, I didn't want to labour over any of these horrible, horrible things on Mental Health Monday too much. This is the point that we're making today, isn't it? It was terrible. It distressed me. It caused me a lot of mental unhappiness. And what am I saying? I'm worried about it. How dare I be worried about it when he suffered and his family's now like this. I didn't know. You probably don't know this in America, do you? But the poor little boy, his parents didn't treat him properly, fed him salt and horrible food and beat him up, and we had these horrible stories. It's horrible. I'm not going to linger on it too much. Like, you hear these horrible stories. He was from right up the road where we live, and I'm nearly going to cry. I've already done my crying about Arthur, and I'm not. The point that I'm trying to make is that he supported Birmingham. Like, he's a little blue nose. Gotta be careful not to just fall apart now. He's that little boy that I was, isn't he? Do you know what I'm saying? He's that little boy that I was, and so the club, the Birmingham Football Club, made quite a lot of a big deal about it, like about him and his life. So, oh God, how am I going to get through this? He said they had these cameras in social services in the UK. They had cameras in his home or something. I don't know. I'm not going to go in the full story. He cried and complained that he thought nobody loved him. And so there was this outpouring of love from the Birmingham City. Where's the browser? Let's just move the browser. Like from fans, from people like me, from the fans. You see, it says "You are loved" at the stadium there. From people like me, from just the people of Birmingham, whatever. There was an outpouring of love, and this is what I'm saying is, God, how am I doing this at the end of this episode where I'm supposed to be practicing self-compassion, not over-identifying with it? Take action. This is the last bit. Take action. Why am I discussing football as well? Where did football about empathy? Having the ability to empathy, isn't it? All this sort of stuff. So, going back to what we're saying is, I've got a bit confused and a bit disoriented and a bit lost there now. As a club, we showed our love. Everyone didn't go mad and get angry. That was what I was so surprised about. People were really angry at his horrible parents, who they were put in prison, of course. Really angry about that. But it's not a story about that, is it? We don't want to talk about those horrible parents, do we? They're not the people that we should be thinking about. The people that we should be thinking of, the person that, whatever. Where's my browser? Like, I kind of feel bad that with the COVID, I wasn't going to be going to the football. Like, just put it that way. With the COVID, I'm not going to be going to the football. But I kind of feel bad that I didn't go and, be part of this outpouring, like this literal display of unity. And that's the good thing, isn't it? That's the good thing that we need to be able to get hold of. So take action is this number 3. Empathy. This is how I'm going to have to pull this back now. I'm going to have to pull this back to what we're doing. And I'm sure when I watch this back in the edit, I'll realise my train of thought and I'll think, oh, you didn't finish that point. But it doesn't really matter, does it? It's just an example of all this. Right, number 3, take action. Empathetic distress evokes negative feelings. Yeah, we've just been there. Such as stress, and prompts us to withdraw and be unsociable. I totally get that. When you feel these things, when you see it on the news, you don't want to go out and talk to people. You feel sad and, depressed about it. The world's shit and I'm not going out and messing in that shitty world. In contrast, compassion produces positive feelings of love for another. So that's going back to this, isn't it? That's going back to that as a group, feeling those emotions together. We all felt the sadness, but that group and that outpouring of love showed me, it highlights what we're talking about here, that the end goal is not the anger and the sadness. The end goal, of course, is this positive feelings of love. So it prompts us to take action. Most specifically, compassion helps motivate sociability. As humans, we're a highly social species. In order to coordinate our joint actions and assure successful communication, we use language to convey information. Like, there's a whole thing. The human cognitive capacity to draw inferences about other people's beliefs and intentions, theory of mind. It's all about that sort of stuff. It's psychology. It's all there. Compassion helps to motivate society. So I guess what they're saying is, like, when you feel these things, you get together, don't you? You talk about it with each other. You show as a society what your values are. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's action, isn't it? It doesn't fix the thing that was wrong. It doesn't fix it. It doesn't make it go away. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened. In some aspects, it might lead to fixing it, mightn't it? If you all come together like that, it might lead to positive change. In some aspects, it might. And certainly some demonstrations in the face of horrible tragedy actually do lead to changes in laws or social feelings about things. One way to counter empathetic distress is to get involved, donate, volunteer, organise. And I'm always like big about donate. I think that's big. Volunteer and organise is so much more difficult. Like war in Ukraine, what am I going to suggest? You should go there and blow people up? No. But what I did suggest is we need more organisations helping people to get out of there. You know, maybe if you do feel these things really strongly, then being involved in these organisations really helps. And it doesn't mean that you have to go out to the war, but maybe you could do things to help organise other volunteers to create more waves. To, you know, maybe you do things to maybe you volunteer for the mental health charity, to talk to the people. Like on Samaritans, there's people that pick up those phones. They're volunteers. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they're not going to the Ukraine and shooting and going at Putin, but if you want to talk about how bad it makes you feel, they're there for you. So that really is important, isn't it? So I think that counts. And what they've said in this article and what we're saying today is that by doing these things, by practicing the loving kindness meditation, by practicing the self-compassion, by taking the action, coming together to send food and medical supplies, absolutely, sending things. You know, it doesn't mean that you can then sit at home and say, oh, I've done my little bit. It doesn't. And these people, us people, we people, we don't do a little donation to UNICEF and say, well, that's my job done for the year. I'm going to go and I'm going to play graveyard keeper for another 8 hours and not care about anyone else. What I tend to do is I say I've donated to UNICEF and I feel like that haven't done enough, and now I can't. What am I going to do? I'm just going to have to distract myself and play graveyard keeper for 8 hours. But it doesn't mean that it switches up. But at least you've done something. You feel like you've moved something forward. But volunteer and organise is harder. I do totally get that. But what I'm saying is that you don't have volunteer and organise doesn't have to be direct. Like, I don't have to volunteer to go to Ukraine or to organise the Ukrainian. Maybe I volunteer to organise something more local that can have that bigger knock-on effect. Maybe you're part of something that, you know, can have a big effect in a more general way. And I know what they're saying is it helps you feel better. I'm pretty sure if you spend an afternoon, you know, doing some socially positive, constructive work. And honestly, I do this Mental Health Monday. It makes me feel like I've done a little cry today, haven't I? But it also makes me feel good at the end that, you know, well, there's some in park life. What do you mean in park life? What do you mean in park life? In park life, when he goes to feed the pigeons. In park life.
Taglia in front of.
Shut up about your Dolmio sauce. That's just tomatoes and basil. I can make that out of tomatoes and basil. I've got pepper in the cupboard. I'm not an idiot. I can make. You look on the ingredients for that. Look on the ingredients. What's in it? You can make that. If you're not an idiot, you can do that yourself with tomatoes. It's got a lot of sugar. Right. Remember this. Has it been muted? Remember this. It's not been muted, has it? This is the video. Back when they did, you know, music videos like this. Right, that's all you can hear of that because it's going to get me copyright strikes. But remember this, he feeds the pigeons. I can't believe I'm doing this at the end of all this serious business. I can't stay serious for long enough, can I? I just can't do it. He feeds the pigeons. Do you know the bit where he feeds the pigeons?
Sometimes feed the sparrows too. It gives me a sense of enormous.
Do you remember that? He feeds the pigeons. I'll play it, yeah, go on. It's get kicked right off.
I sometimes feed the sparrows too.
I've just done that bit. I want the pigeons. I feed the pigeons, mate.
Trousers on, have a cup of tea, and I think about leaving the house. I feed the pigeons. I sometimes feed the sparrows too. It gives me a sense of enormous well-being.
See, he feeds the pigeons and he feeds the sparrows too. You've never seen that Park Life? It's Blur. Do you remember Blur and Oasis? They were our biggest bands in the 90s, Blur and Oasis. Blur were the ones that did the music and Oasis were the ones that had the fights. But, you know, both had their popularity in different ways. And Pulp, Common People. I want to live like common people. I want to eat a Yorkie from the One Stop. Anyway, look, this was a popular tune back in the 90s. The point being, he gets an enormous sense of well-being from feeding the pigeons. Now, I know it's not solving the war in Ukraine. I know it's not solving the war in Ukraine, but doing a little bit, donate, volunteer, organise. I do Mental Health Monday every week for me to feel good for me. But doing a little bit, it can make you feel like, well, I've put some of myself. And that's what the other thing he says. That's the other thing he says. Where's that gone now? Where's that gone now? Get it back. Park life. Where's that gone now?
And then I'm happy for the rest of the day. Safe in the knowledge there will always be a bit of my heart devoted to it.
He's happy for the rest of the day, safe in the knowledge there'll always be a piece of his heart devoted to it. That's what he says. And he means it. What he means is, if you do a little something in your day... Now, this is going to sound ridiculous. I'm going to do big face, and it's going to sound ridiculous. But, like, I sometimes pick up other people's dog poo. I hope it's dog poo. I hope it's dog poo. I hope it's not someone just going down there and saying, actually, I have... Do you know what? Saying this now, there's always this, like, you know, quite... chuffer of a dog poo down, because we go walk in the same sort of place, and I think one person is letting their dog poo, one person, and I'm picking it up for them. But I once saw an alcoholic fella. I know, well, I'm assuming it's alcohol. He had the can of alcohol, you know, the can of strong super beer, and he was asleep on the floor, and he had the can strong super beer, and I was, oh, you right mate, and he, well, I'll leave him then, maybe he's doing it anyway. You know, sometimes you do a little thing, don't you? You think, that's not for me to do, but I'll do a little thing. And he says, you feed the sparrows or whatever, you get an enormous sense of well-being, safe. There's a part of you devoted. You've given a piece of your heart. It was do a good deed every day, wasn't it, in the Cubs? Do a good deed every day. You do your little thing, and it's little. It's little. It's big for the person who trod in the dog. If you don't have to tread in that, you'd think it was big if someone prevented that. They don't know you prevented it. Maybe I should be doing more noble things than picking up. But you know what I mean? I pick up rubbish and things like that, and I look like a bit of a tramp sometimes, but I don't care. I just, you know, letting someone cut in front of you in traffic, you know, yeah, little things, doing a little thing for somebody, passing it on, whatever. Passing it on. Have you heard of passing it on, where something good happens, so then you say, oh, something good's happened to me, I'll go and buy someone a sandwich, or I'll leave a little bit extra in the collection there for the next person. You know what I mean? Passing it on. I've had a bit of good fortune, so I'll leave a little bit for the next person. Do you know what I'm saying? If we do those sort of things, if we get our best followers, primes and viewers on Mount Viewers, chuff off, you chuffer, you chuffing and you chuffing and chuffing, you chuffing and a chuffer. I don't know how to ban you, so I'll add you as a friend instead. No, I won't. Just leave off, you chuffer. I'm not buying anything from anyone. I not only do I not have the money, like, could you imagine if that was the key to my success? If I just gave them a bunch of money and then all of a sudden I was successful, there'd be two elements to that. One, I'd think, oh, I can't believe that was it. I should have been doing that all along. I bet the agencies are. I bet all these top streamers have people just constant view botting them to put them at the top. But also, I'd think, well, that's a hollow victory, isn't it? I'd rather spend them, because I'm only doing it to try and help people. If it turned out no one was watching and I'd faked it and got popular, well, what would be the point? I wouldn't have helped anyone, would I? I just spent money to get views. I don't understand. If you're watching this, Zakin PvP. Is that just a fake botty name? If you're watching this and you're listening to what I'm saying, then just chuck views my way because I'm a nice person. Don't make me pay for them. You owe me now. You owe me. You owe me. In goodwill. Safe that a piece of your heart will always be part of the day. You owe me. So, anyway, let's get back to what we're doing. Taking that action, empathy and compassion, taking that action, it gives you a sense of well-being. And that's important, isn't it? That's important because you can't do everything. You can't do everything all at once. I'm going web browsing when I want to just make an impact, go back to big face. You can't do everything. You can't be feeling depressed and down and angry and upset and the world is rubbish if you are also feeling a sense of well-being, can you really? They're like different parts of the spectrum. So if you're taking action and doing these things, little things, they don't have to be big things, little things, and, you know, making a little bit of a difference and trying, then it turns out that's actually good for your mental health. So it's good for you as well. And it happens automatic. Like, you just feel like, you know, I've come off here, I go and walk the dog, and I feel like I've actually, like, I used to do it in hairdressing. Some days I'd mop the floor at the end of a long day hairdressing. I think, well, actually, you know, it's been good that I've been here, because I remember once somebody lost their dog. When I say lost their dog died. And they came and they had their hair done and they were talking about it and they were getting upset, and we talked. You know, we spent a bit of time having a coffee and talking, because I've got dogs. I know what it's like. Like, the hair didn't take as long as the talking. The hair was done. But I stayed on after work just to, you know, when they were gone, I was mopping the floor, and I was thinking it was good that I was here today to cut their hair, wasn't it? Because if they'd gone to Tony and Guy up the road, they wouldn't have had that. I don't know. It was just, I think that was good. Some days I was mopping the floor, like, thinking, what a chuffer. You know, I wish I was at home. But, like, you know, some days I'm there and thinking, well, it was good that I was there. Like, you mop the floor and you go home. You don't feel... They had the sadness, and it was sad. They lost the dog. You know how that is. So I didn't go home crying about the sadness. It was good that we were there together to go through these things. I remember when Nan died, we all went, you know, got together and just instinctively as a family, you know, watched a documentary about Jack the Ripper, because the Yorkshire Ripper or something. We just, you know, it wasn't about the documentary. We just get together, don't you? Like, we all got together, taking it back, going back to this, you know, to this, and going back to Mo Farah, isn't it? Like, when things are bad and when things are tough, we get together and we join in together, don't we? And when things are good, we get together and join in together. It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting concept. So there you go. That's something interesting that we've touched on today, isn't it? That's some deep and meaningful cosmic truth. The final one, stop doom scrolling. We've got a video on doom scrolling, so now I can do the shilling for me. Web browser. The final point, stop doom scrolling. What's doom scrolling, I hear you cry? Well, I don't hear anyone crying anything, because you think I'm plugged in. You think I can hear anything. What is actually going on in here is it's just noise cancellation. It's actually, this wire's not connected to anything. And it's just noise cancellation, so I don't have to hear the screaming in this permanent underworld hell of Gravekipper that I live in. So now we're going to come to the end of the episode. I'm going to do my shilling for myself. Mental Health Monday is a YouTube channel. It's us doing what we do here. I edit it and put it up there. It's got all videos on it. You can watch that. It's like a fractal branch of the Ganji Kid media conglomerate, which is us on stream doing this. We stream and we upload fairly regularly, fairly regularly. I stream on YouTube as well as I stream on Twitch. Stream on both places. That's YouTube. All of the VODs, all the Twitch streams, all the YouTube streaming, all the stuff goes up on YouTube. Ganji Kid. From there, I edit things. Like Mental Health Monday, we also do Ganji Cuts. It's just a bit of fun, isn't it? If you want to have fun. Just a bit of fun. Recently put up some shorts there about Pokemon. And we did the Pulp Fiction West Midlands redo. So if you want to hear me redo Pulp Fiction in a West Midlands accent, go over there and watch that. Alternatively, you could want to be a bit more serious, couldn't you? You don't want all that chuffing and messing about. I like the serious bit that you do. Well, that's on Ganji Arts. You can go and look at that. I've done a video about Pokemon. Is it too soon? The next one. It's all our talking that we do on stream, edited for the old Ganji Arts. What about if I just want to listen to ASMR? Well, you can go and do that. Some people have come here from that. So now it's like snake eating its own tail. There's a new video there. Insults, goofing, bit of messing about. No, it's there. It's ASMR. What about if I want to watch one of your playthroughs of your game? Well, they're up there, aren't they?
You write born to kill on your helmet and you wear a peace button. What's that supposed to be? Some kind of sick joke?
I think I was trying to suggest something about the duality of man, sir.
That's your tippies. Thank you very much for your tippies. Thank you for your tippies. That's all that. That's what I get in respect. Tippies. So I'm grateful. Tippies. You get them on the old internet. Get them on the old internet, and you can just pop this new system by your coffee lot, so that Twitch and everyone else don't take so much. I get more of it. Thank you very much for your tippies. That's how that. So we've got the full thing, just like all the streamers now. Full thing going on. Earphones popping off. Everything. I think I told my stories, didn't I? I told my stories today. I think I did. All right today. I was going to say a little story. Oh, doom scrolling. So, doom scrolling itself exists on Mental Health Monday. That's what we're doing today. It's got a YouTube channel. It's got its own videos. It's got everything you could possibly need. And if it's not, then you tell us and we'll talk about it. And down here, I'll find doom scrolling, won't I? There it is. It's got the Homer Simpsons. What if I just do this? Search doom scrolling. Like that. The end is near, doom scrolling. So there you go, look. Done a video all about that. And that is a really good point as well, is that it's so easy to fall into this habit of more news. Wake up, I want to see what's happened. Before I go to bed, I want to see that the nukes haven't dropped, and another article to tell me another point of view, and I'll just click another video. And at some point, it is mentally healthy to say I can't contain the world's media in my brain at any one time. I can't contain it all. So let's just give it a knock on the head for now. Let's give myself a couple of hours tomorrow. I'll write it in my schedule. I want to find out about Ukraine tomorrow. I'm going to give a good hour to finding out, and after that I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to go and watch this documentary about Jeremy Kyle or whatever. Because I can't just do it forever, because it's too easy these days. I've got a magic portal to the internet that's straight in. Elon Musk has put a chip in my head. Like, my phone is now going to be implanted right there on my face. Virtual reality for endless podcasts and reporting. Yeah, exactly. I listened to Lex Fridman has done such a good job. I think he's done almost too good a job. Right, Lex Fridman. I don't know why I'm not subscribed, because I'm on Ganji Kid, not Drew Barn or SMR or whatever. Lex Fridman, though, I've watched all of these, virtually, nearly all of these, and they're just huge, long 3-hour conversations with really smart people. Sometimes you have to watch them twice to really get fully all the information out, because it's like so good. Look at how many of them there are. What a hero, a brilliant person. I'm a big fan of Lex Fridman. But if you just discovered him now, or even I discovered him when he was like at 10,000 subs, and since then, there's so much stuff. I don't know if I can watch it all. I said I watched them all. I haven't watched them all. I haven't watched Dan Gable Olympic Wrestling. I just, there were other things. There's so much, though. There's so much great information there. I'm going to put it on in the background and just let it roll. And maybe I should be doing more on my podcast. I don't know. We'll talk about Lex Fridman another time. But he's in a space in the world where there's lots of interesting people, and he's built himself a really good platform and persona on his podcast there. I think it's really good. I'm really pleased with Lex Fridman. I think he's nearly vegan as well. He's not vegan yet, but I think he would be if he could figure it out. I think he will figure it out soon. I think he'll figure it out. Yeah. There was something else I was going to say as well today. I had a little thought about a story that I was going to tell during this. I think I told it at one point. Oh yeah, that was it. It was the Olympics and coming together and the alternative side to immigration, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I've covered all that. So I've done the shilling for myself, and now I'll just do a little bit of talking and try and show you the Goth, the Lounge Goth, 6% battery. So what I'm going to try and do now, first of all, a little bit of talking, was Graveyard Keeper, right? Chuffing Graveyard Keeper. Oh, Graveyard Keeper. We've got a video on our channel. We've got a stream where we played the first bit of Graveyard Keeper. 2 hours of Graveyard Keeper Unseen. It's a really good game. Yeah, he does talk about eating meat a lot. He does talk, and he's got this problem. Wait, Lex Fridman, it's because he's come from the Joe Rogan end of the martial arts, where they're all like, oh, the more meat I eat, the more protein, and I'm strong. But he talks about the thing about Lex. I'm going to have to go back to Lex Fridman now. Let's have him on the background. The thing about Lex is that he is an artificial intelligence. He's very knowledgeable and works in the field of artificial intelligence. So what he actually is he's a robot sent from the future to gather as much information to help the development of the future robots. That's what Lex is. And so sometimes he'll do things on consciousness, and they'll get really in depth on consciousness. And he doesn't see it the way we do, because he's not really human. He's a robot, remember? He's an artificial intelligence in the future. You can spot it in some of the episodes. But I was going to do a video on his about 2 years ago. I was going to do a video on Lex because veganism kept coming up in the videos, but not veganism itself, but some of the underpinning themes, because they're talking about consciousness, for example. Well, you can't talk about veganism and you can't talk about consciousness and animals without the knock-on conversation about veganism. But they do. They don't talk about it because they're not vegans. But the thought process they go through, I think, go on, one more step. So I was going to make this video where I used, because I've got lots of examples of it happening in the podcast, or I had lots of examples. And I was going to suggest to everyone, why don't you go and watch Lex Fridman? And I think one day, he's at 1.6 million. He's at 1 million subscribers. I remember when he was at 10,000. I'm not kidding. I was on the Lex Fridman train a long time. 1 million. Chuffing hell. Well, that's probably because Joe Rogan's not on YouTube anymore. And Lex Fridman is better than Joe Rogan because he doesn't have a load of nonsense and chuff on there. Get some really good people on there. Anyway. I think he's a robot from the future. And what they do is they talk about consciousness sometimes. And during those conversations, you get the feeling that the breadcrumbs of veganism are being laid down. Back to what we do. I played Graveyard Keeper for 2 hours. And then after that, this last week I've played it for a lot more hours than that, I can tell you. Not on stream, just in my broken brain world. It's like chuffing Stardew Valley. Graveyard Keeper is like Stardew Valley. And Stardew Valley, you can't put the chuffer down, can you? Just 5 more minutes, just another 5 more minutes, just playing Graveyard Keeper, another 5 more. It broke my brain. I stayed up all night one of the nights. Didn't go to bed, stayed up all night one of the nights. What am I doing this for? Graveyard Keeper. You got me like Stardew Valley. It's so much like Stardew Valley. Deliberately. I'm going to have to make a video. And the video is going to have to be called Graveyard Keeper Broke My Brain. I've decided recently that I don't think it is a good idea that I play games from 4 years ago. If I'm going to be on this, platform and this journey, we're going to have to start doing more up-to-date stuff. Because there's only so much time in the world, isn't there? So if I just play 4-year-old indie games, it's never going to take off, is it, what we're doing here? But I did, the Graveyard Keeper was a great indie game. Perfect for me. I love it in so many ways, but in other ways I can't put it. We know about Stardew Valley. So I need to make a video that's talking about that as a concept. Why can't you put it down? What is it about Stardew Valley and Graveyard Keeper? Why can't you put it down? And is that good? I think it's good. I think I get my value out of it. I think I get my money's worth. But on the other side of the coin, it does something to my brain that doesn't allow me to leave. It's once I get thinking, I'll briefly say this. It's something to do with list making, I think, that if you've got a list of tasks and little incremental, I could put it down, or I could just gather 6 more carrots, and I could just use those carrots to make 1 more jar of marmalade, and I could just use that marmalade to get 1 more incremental point on my friendliness with this person. It never stops. Why can't I say that's the end? Put it down. It's time to bed. Yeah, no sleep. Well, these are the sort of things we need to talk about. So that's the sort of video I want to make about that. So I didn't want to play it on stream for 20 episodes because I'm not going to. I've decided how I feel about it, but we haven't written the script. Instead, I've just played it loads, and I didn't play it on stream either because I can't, because I'm too. It's a time management game in a way, and so it's ironic that I lose the ability to manage my own time when I'm playing it, but I haven't got the ability to talk to chat and manage the time on the game. I need to play the game soon, but I don't know. It was one of those games that I sit upstairs playing 4 a.m, not a stream game. So much time can go into it. So much time went into Stardew Valley. Don't know if it's a bad or a good thing. Don't know what to say about it really, but we have to say something along those lines. And then we need to choose more games and move forward. So that's what's coming up on stream for us. I'll be on YouTube hopefully tomorrow in the daytime, Twitch in the evening. That's the general plan, but I don't want to overload us with hours and hours and hours of chuff. So I'm trying to, at the moment, I know we've got built a steady progress platform: streaming, gaming, conversation, Mental Health Monday, bringing in interviews. I know we've got something basic here, the building blocks. I've got this thing in the bug in my brain about trying to create an identity for the podcast and it not just be, there's so much podcast out there. What's the reason I'm doing it for? An identity for that. And is that the additional piece of media we need to bring in? Maybe I need to be out with my camera more. Whatever, I don't know. I'm trying to, I've got this thing going on in my brain about honing that. And part of it is about creating shorter episodic gameplay, maybe gameplay, but of the indie sort where it's not like a 10-hour game, sorry, a 100, 200-hour game, where I'm not like a Pokemon streamer forever, where I'm presenting these smaller, more interesting, nuanced stories and attitudes and ideas surrounding it. That's what we're about, isn't it? We're not about like watch me play Pokemon. We're about what do we feel after we've played Pokemon. Do you know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's, I need to be able to clearly identify and produce in that vein. And more recently, I suppose it's quite normal. It's what I said at the start of the broadcast, to feel a bit dizzy and confused. It's more normal to be able to say, well, I don't really know what to do in the world, because who knows what to do in the world, and like, I don't know if this is right or that's right, and I'm trying to work and trying to push forward, but in what direction? It's tough, isn't it? It's tough, but that's what's queued up for us on stream, is more, I think it's good that we're honing and finding our feet, so to speak, or feet's the wrong word, finding our identity, maybe. I don't know, or maybe we do have a clear identity. I've certainly got a lot of channels that need edits, so more content coming on the regular, of course, the normal sort of chuff. We'll see what Guan. So you be good, my little puckos. We've done another good Mental Health Monday. I'll try and get this one edited and put up, because it's pertinent for modern times. But it's not just Ukraine, is it? It's just modern times, so it'll always be pertinent. Or maybe I was going to say hopefully, but maybe hopefully it won't. Maybe hopefully we can get to a point in the world where it's not all a load of chuff, and some of it's like good and not a load of chuff rubbish. Oh, see now I'm laughing and smiling. We all can have a little laugh and smile. So you be good, my little puckos. You be good. I'll be back tomorrow in the daytime, the evening, what have you. I'll see you anon. Always here, 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. GMT for Mental Health Monday. That will change in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we're going to change the clocks. Whole of the UK does it. We change the clocks in 2 weeks. So watch out for that. I'll keep mentioning it as it approaches. And yeah, you be good, my little puckos. You have been good. And if you can't be good, then I'm going to take you out to feed the pigeons and the sparrows, teach you about an enormous sense of well-being, and that'll get you onto the path for being good, won't it? So, park life. Oh, you changed clocks. Well, that's going to put it out double. I thought what we could do this year is, why don't I just put the clock forward 2 hours, and that means I won't have to remember next year. Do it 2 hours, and then I'll be ahead for next year. I'll be ready for next year. Right. You be good, my little puckos. You be good.